Hello and welcome to Genius Teatime with Diane Kolin. Thank you so much for doing this. This is terrific.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, of course. Diane, in her own words, is a singer, a music educator, and a voice teacher. Her low voice brings her to explore various genres from jazz to Baroque music and French chanson repertoire. She teaches voice to children and adults and develops pedagogical tools and workshops for singers with disabilities to learn how to sing with a changing body or from a non-standing position. She is a professional member of RAMPT, which is a recording artist and music professional with disabilities, and the Recording Academy. She frequently performs in North America and Europe and is a PhD candidate in musicology at York University, Toronto, Canada. And her dissertation, almost finished, is focused on professional musicians, composers, and music specialists with disabilities. She is the founder of Arts Ably, a company that offers diverse activities related to accessibility and disability in the arts, including workshops, lectures, free resources, and a podcast called Arts Ably in Conversation, interviewing artists with disabilities, which is how I met you, which is really
Yes.
terrific. She's also a professional assessor member of the Rick Hansen Foundation in Canada and regularly assesses cultural centers and arts institutions to make sure that they are accessible. How did you get involved with the Rick Hansen Foundation?
Well, I wanted to get a certification for that. There is a professional certification
Mm,
which I passed, and this is normally for architects and designers. The idea is really to implement universal design in all the buildings. And I'm by with my work with Artsibly, I got in touch with a lot of Rickenson Foundation professional, which is a special title called the Rick Hansen RHFAC, sorry, RHFAC, which is the Rick Hansen Foundation Accessibility Assessment certification. And I just I registered for this course and they offer scholarships. And I decided that I wanted to do it, but they said, oh, you're not an architect, you're not a designer. And I insisted a little bit and I said, well, I'm not, but I'm also a professional. So maybe I would be a good match. And then they said, okay, let's try. And it was perfect. And it worked very well. I met fantastic professionals in design and architect world and trainer was a great woman who was in the same in the same situation as me. She was not an architect, she was not a designer, but she got really, really interested into design and accessibility. So now she's one of the trainers over there. So that's great. Oh,
sorry,
I
I
don't
was
hear.
looking it up.
Ah.
I was looking it up online on the Accessibility Matters, the rickhansen.com.
Yep.
All right, I will.
Rickenson Foundation. Rickenson is an athlete very famous in Canada. He did world tours in his wheelchair. He was a runner, and he just went around the world uh, to meet people and to speak with people about accessibility in general. And he does that for I don't know. He's still fighting, and it's been 40 years, I guess, or something like that. So he's great.
That's awesome.
And a big team, and they're based in Vancouver, but it's a national company, so they really train and work with people all around Canada.
That's terrific.
Mm.
Because that's such a challenge. Certainly it is here. I'm imagining it's been a challenge up there as well.
Yeah, we have similar laws and similar regulation in Canada and in the US. So yeah, it's similar
Yes, at least for now.
for
We're
now.
seeing what's
Yeah.
happening right now. So what got you to start Art Sably?
Well, I have a disability myself. I'm a wheelchair user and I have multiple disabilities. But I was originally I have a progressive condition, and so originally I grew up walking, standing, and I got health issues when I was a pre-teenager at between 11 and 13 years. But before that, I've been singing since I am 4. I've been doing a lot of different things artistically and mostly in theater and in music. And I was born in France and I grew up in Holland. And so I was already a traveler when I was a kid. My father also had a job which led him to travel a lot. So even when we were back to France, we were traveling and we were living in several parts of the country. And so it's a different lifestyle, and but it also I met awesome people from several regions and several cultures, and so I've always been interested into intersectionalities and different bridges between communities and things like that. And growing up with a disability, at a certain point, I had to use crutches because I could not stand, and so that's what led me to explore the different positions of my body when I was singing, which is, I'm not, and I'm teaching that, but I used to just explore it by myself, and at a certain point, I was in a wheelchair, so I had to think of that again. And of course, changing devices, now the artistic world was completely inaccessible to me. I could not go to university to study musicology. I could not, I could, I was in a theater school which was not accessible. I faced a lot of issues. So my plan to become a professional artist didn't work anymore, and I went somewhere else. But I never quit the idea that I would do something about accessibility later. And it's only when I arrived in Canada in 2014 that I met people. First of all, everything was way more accessible than in France. I give you examples. In France, we don't have, I mean, it changes now, but in 2014, I discovered that some buttons could open automatic doors. It's really not conceivable in France. I forgot about that lots of time, and some people were like poking me on the shoulder and saying, "Oh, their button is over there." Oh yeah, button. Oh yeah. I was like, so
Yeah.
anyway, that taking the subway. I mean, I cannot take the subway in France. It's
It's not
you know
accessible there at all. The metro
no.
is not.
So anyway, so things like that, and then I got a new level of freedom, and I realized that some buildings and some theaters and some churches and some places where usually you can find lots of arts were accessible. And so I went back to music immediately, almost immediately. It took me a few months to figure out, but and then I also had around me lots of people from universities. And at a certain point, I had a conversation with someone who told me, why don't you finish I started my master in France, but I never finished it. Why don't you finish your master here? Can I do that 20 years after? So, sure, just contact the university in France and get your grades and apply. And I did. So I applied for a master in music first in York University, where my uh, mentor and friend today, Stephanie Martin, who was my artistic director in the choir I was singing in, and also a great composer. She composes a lot right now. She retired from York University this summer, and now she will compose even more beautiful pieces. Anyway, I met this beautiful woman and other people who also chatted with me about the possibility of doing that. So I got my master in 1 year because I had everything in my mind. So 4 months and after starting my master, Stephanie came to me and said, "You're going to be finished in no time. Do you consider doing a PhD?" So, and I don't know if I asked first or if she told me, but it was in a conversation, and I said, okay, let's do it. So I applied for the PhD when I was on my master, and I finished my master in 1 year and immediately started my PhD. And during the PhD, it was great. I was studying the position of musicians with disabilities in the professional world, and I was already studying that artist, and because of course the issue when you study this field, even when you study the field called critical disability studies, you go to that field in university, there is no music. There is a little bit of art, the role of artists, and the representation of disabled actors in TV or in medium, in the mainstream media, things like that. But music, I mean, yeah, I was very surprised. So I said, I want to implement music in that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I did. And for the 4 years of my PhD, I just work. My field is musicology, so it's the study of everything around a period, a musician, a subject, and a music era, something like that. And I chose to study historically musicians with disabilities from the medieval time to today, basically. So it's a very long time period. And the part today, it's really about interviewing musicians today about how they've been, what was their education, how did they get to music, how could they stay in professional music. And so these were interviews I had to that were restrained to my dissertation. And doing that, I was like, that's not possible. I cannot leave these beautiful conversations only in a dissertation. It needs to
Uh,
get out. And so in 2013, I started thinking of creating a company, but I was like postponing it a little bit and saying, okay, not in 2013, 2023. I was thinking, okay, maybe I should create something, a structure or something based on this idea that I should put that out. And then I started, I got a grant to work in a school to implement workshops about accessibility in music in music schools. And I built these workshops, I gave these workshops, I partnered with some people. And the music school I was in, who hired me as a music teacher, also I gave these workshops over there. And
nice.
after that, I said, Artibly should be a company offering these kind of things. Not only the podcast, not only conversation, but also what are the resources, free resources. Like you can go on the website and there are some movies or some books or some uh, uh, what I call the blog post, which are everything that is related to the conversations I have with the artist during the podcast. I put them on a special page, which is called Free Resources Accompanying the Interviews. And it's everything related to the conversation, plus everything else that the artist wants to put here. And I didn't open it only to music. I opened it to all artists with disabilities, and also with companies working with artists with disabilities, like really everything that exists there. And so this RTB, I opened it officially in 2024, in February 2024. And today we are August 2025. I have 52 episodes with Artibly, so it has been an amazing journey, really, including a live episode, which you were there, right? And
It was
so
terrific.
it was great because then we could all talk together, and there was this bubbling energy between people talking about their aspects of the work as an artist with disability or an artist working with others. And it was fantastic. So I love doing that, and that's how Artsibly was born and how Artsibly wants to grow. It's by connecting these different communities and having the possibility of presenting this person to this person, uh, or we have we have a TV channel called AMI TV, Accessible Media
No,
TV. And this AMI TV, several of the artists I have interviewed have also been featured on this TV channel. And
oh, that's
recently I
amazing.
had a conversation with one of the producers over there, and I was like, okay, so what new artists could I interview, do you think? And so he gave me a list, and so it's great because then we get in touch with other communities. I want to give a shout out to these guys. So I'm showing right now for the visual description, the Disability Collective, it's a mug. And on the other side, it's written, can you read that?
Disabled is not a bad word.
Yes,
Terrific.
exactly. So this is the Disability Collective, which is a company pushing, performances, accessible performances, bringing some artists from the LGBT community and the disability community together, and always ensuring there is all the level of accessibility for a venue or a play or a concert. And yeah, they've been doing a great work. So these kind of communities, I want to give shout outs because it's really important. And ramped in the States, it's I mean,
Yes.
recording artists and music professionals with disabilities, ramped. They have a website, ramp.org, and this community has been fantastic. It's not only people from the US, by the way, because I'm in Canada. We are several in Canada. We have some people in Europe. Um, but it's a great group of artists, musicians or music professionals with disabilities, from producers to um, everything from the singer songwriter to the person mixing things up, and um, to the people working in the film industry and composing music, things like that.
Yeah.
And regularly we meet, and regularly we have conversations with professionals in the field, and it's fantastic. So it's growing, and we see all these projects everywhere, and
Yes.
really it's great to be able to have to put the finger inside these projects, and to say, oh, let's bring all these people together at a certain point. There is
That-
another community of artists, which is the creative connectors they're in Ontario, but basically they are everywhere. It's the same kind of idea, and a lot of visual artists, and there are some poets, and there are some. It's a great community of. It's called Creative Connectors. They work mainly with artists with disabilities, and but they connect like really, like regularly. They do monthly, I think now. They do a little reunion with everybody who wants to participate, and we meet some people, and you were there too, I think, at a certain point. So we have multiple streams where we connect, right? We all get together somewhere at a certain point.
it's in that way a very small world.
Yes, it is.
But nice mug for Genius Teatime.
Yes,
I
exactly.
might
So I
add.
was I was thinking, what could I bring for Genius Tea Time? Well, a mug with tea inside. So lemon and ginger is my tea right now.
Excellent, excellent. No, I love that. I think one of the things that happened, I know that when I first was starting with opulent mobility, back first started trying to do anything in 2013,
Mhm,
and then 2015 when I did the first real exhibit, like the real more solid one, was it trying to find other people to do
mhm.
this along with, because yeah, I think that assumption that it's just you on your own is a lot. That's too much. But finding that there are other people and that sometimes all it takes is just getting people together is a
Yes.
very, very powerful thing.
Mhm.
Have you been finding that with Art Sably, that you were able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been finding that level of isolation at a certain point of my life, saying, "Oh, there is nobody around me with a disability," and blah blah blah. I think everybody who has a disability at a certain point experiences that, and then you meet it's the aha moment when I was doing the research and I saw this person and that, we always think of the same, right? Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, maybe Itzhak Perlman, if you are into violin and classical music. Um, but I'm thinking of Lachi, who is the founder of Rumpt, and she is a great singer, and she's Black, and she is fantastic and glowing and very lovely person. Every time I see her, I think everybody is charmed by her when we meet her. And I interviewed her, and during the interview, she was saying, "Well, when I was a kid and or younger, and the teacher was asking, 'What do you want to be later?' And I couldn't relate to a Black woman doing what I wanted to do, which was singing and composing, because I had none. Everybody was like, 'Oh, there is Stevie Wonder.' Yeah, but Stevie Wonder is a man. I'm a woman. It's not a role model for me." And now she says, "Now I am the role model for, young girls who want to be professional singers later." Because it's not true. It's not that there is none. It's because all this, the history, the way the society is treating people with disabilities is hiding them. It changes today, but still, it's still a little bit like that. So finding the connector, like Creative Connector or like Rumpt did, and said, okay, so uh, at a certain point in the industry, getting together, I think that, her first, the talk that made her create Rumpt, not her, but several people getting together and create Rumpt, was a talk with the Recording Academy, with the Grammy Awards, where she was saying, she was first poking them and saying, "I don't see any mention of disability in your conversations." And someone came back to her and said, "Okay, you know what? Let's organize that." And they did that, and she said, "Okay, let's invite this person, this person, this person. I think I know a little bit. Okay, I don't know, 8 in the panel, and that's great. We have a conversation." And at the end of the conversation, the Recording Academy got back to her and said, "That's great, guys, we're going to contact you later and let's keep in touch." And she was like, "Who? Keep in touch with who? Because you mean with this person and this person and this person and this person? I mean, we have no," and she was like, there is no coalition, there is no group, okay, let's create that." It means that it takes one person to give a little sparkle energy and say, "Let's get together and create that." And when you have these people creating these great groups, it's the same with Creative Connectors and let's see, um, you have this great project, and it starts. And I hope with Artsibly I can do that too, right? Um, it's all about conversations and getting together and talking, um, and that's what I like to do.
It's perfect. I mean, yeah, because it is. It's just, I, you're more powerful when you have other people to work with, first off. But and also, you're going to be bouncing more ideas off each other, and you will come up with better ones. It's one of the things I love best about doing these kinds of conversations
Mhm.
because I feel like you get that much more out of it and that much more growth.
Yeah.
Have you found like this has helped grow your own music, this whole
Yes.
process? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I love
Um,
seeing some of what you did with Creative Connector.
yes. But that's the idea, is to when it's not necessarily with Artsibly directly, but the people I met through Artsibly or through other organizations, we've been able to sit together and say, okay, let's create something. Let's do a piece of whatever. And that's what, yeah, it's true. What that we did with Creative Connector is, okay, let's imagine something from the session before and bring that to life. And yeah, for this particular Creative Connector session, I put into music something with colors and So it's yeah, growing the creativity, and fair enough, it came from a conversation with Creative Connector first. Someone gave a poem and
Yes.
said, if you had this poem, what would you do with that? And I started playing with the music of it. And then I started playing with it's wrapped right now, but this is like this is the template I was using. It's um, it's based on something called the boomwhacker, and the boomwhacker is like a plastic tube that creates music that everybody could use. I mean, you
Mm.
could or everybody, not everybody, but most of the it's very popular for children, for example. You have, you know, do re mi fa sol la ti do. It's based on a kind of a solfege thing, and you can play with all these colors, and every note is a color tube, and you can play with that. It's like a xylophone, some in a way, and
Boomwhackers.
boomwhackers, yeah.
Okay.
And so this idea of using these colors and or other codes which are similar, and to use that on the piano, for example. So this sheet that I'm holding for the visual description, it's little stickers with C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, but with the color codes, and it's on a musical staff. And this you could paste on the keyboard, on the piano keyboard, exactly. And speaking of meeting people, this thing I met a few instructors who are in the Berklee College of Music, which is specialized in. So they don't say special needs anymore; they say accessible music because there are some biases behind the notion of special needs. But the idea is that their college, they or their school of music, they teach other ways of musicking, other ways of creating music or playing or performing or singing. And alternate notation is another way of learning music. And so one way is to associate a note with a color. One way is to hold some flashcards or cards, which will then give you uh, an instruction on what to sing or how to sing. And there are other ways. It's if you have a little bit of imagination, then it's great. And some professionals were presenting their ways of teaching children how to read music. And so one of the professors there uh, told me about this, and I bought it immediately. So that was one of the things I did, thanks to, and again, thanks to Artsibly and thanks to connecting with other organizations or communities.
It is terrific. So when you were using that scale, you were assigning different colors to different portions of the poem?
Yes, so I was the poem was a poem is always musical. It has a rhythm, it has breathing. So you could relate you could that put a parallel of a song inside that. So I created a song with a poem, which is basic things to do with lyrics. And with that, I there were some repetitive terms or words. So these repetitive for me meant a color, and a color meant a note. And so this created the basis of my musical phrase. And then I played with it a little bit. I did some tests, and so I did it with half of the poem because it was a very long poem. But it was already, 1 minute and a half of singing. So yeah, that's what I did with that.
Just a lovely idea on how you
Yeah.
translate one idea to another and something that can work in a more accessible way as well.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't remember. How did you find out about opulent mobility?
Well, with Creative Connectors,
Ah,
I was looking at, they have an awesome repertoire of artists all over the world. And they became a partner in that sense because I came to them and we had a little meeting, And I said, would you mind if I just explore the database and look at artists which might be good match for interviews? And in the same way, I was looking at musicians with disabilities for my dissertation. I expanded. I started looking at great artists or great projects. And so I found Upland Mobility, and I looked at all the projects and the exhibitions, and I contacted you after that.
And it works out really well. So if I'm putting these things in the chat, if anyone is interested into that, but yes, Creative Connector has its own directory of so many people. And I found pretty fabulous people through there as well. So I'm
Mhm.
always excited about that. No, when you were dealing with accessibility in other music spaces, what have you found has been a really effective tool to help maybe get people who weren't thinking about that to think about it a little differently?
Well, there is one tool that everybody has, communication. Communication is a fantastic tool. Everybody has a different um, access needs. So even if you don't have a disability, sometimes you are always traveling and you're always coming from last minute with a lot of suitcase. Well, you're rolling your suitcase. You need a place where you can put your suitcase and roll in, not taking a 100 stairs to get inside the building, right? So you're using the ramp because it's easier to do. And then your stroller with a baby, and oh, you need to drop your daughter who's singing in a choir. Well, you're gonna use the stroller, so you're gonna use the ramp. So anyway, the accessibility and universal design in general, when you think of implementing level of accessibility that everybody can use, um, this is something that people don't realize. They're using things that every day in their everyday life, like from the mobile phone to ramps and to curve cuts and to things like that. These are things that started with someone saying, "Oh, I would really need that. How can we work on that?" Someone who went and who said, "I need that." And so in music, it's the same. I've been working with a lot of music ensembles who are performing in not in the same space every time, right? So the issue is when you are working in the same venue, that's great. You have one venue, so you can work on improvements. I've with one choir, I've worked in the same spot for I don't know 3 or 4 years, and there were issues at the beginning. I was coming in the building, and the key to the elevator, you needed the key to activate it, was upstairs. So, how do we solve the issue? By putting it in a place where I can reach it and without asking someone to give it the key. Things like that. It's just about communication. Okay, this is happening to me. And then someone says, oh, yeah, I never thought of that, So these are little details. And then, I mean, every building doesn't have a ramp. Okay, so if you don't have a ramp, what could we do? Is there a way we are bringing a portable ramp, or is there no access at all? And then there is the discussion about the fact that having a ramp doesn't mean being accessible. Having a round means I can access the building, but now if I want to go to the washrooms and the washrooms are downstairs, the building is not accessible. Again, conversation. Oh yeah, I never realized there were stairs to go down. Like you do it automatically, and I don't blame people. They just like it's their way of living, of going their way. And then suddenly they realize, and it's only by chatting and also going around with people, right? So I like going around the building and doing all the parts where we sing and then we've developed mechanisms, and there is always a time where, and I'm not the only one. So what about the other people who need access, who have access needs, right? So this person who is a certain age needs a chair, but she never, she was too shy. She never asked for it. So leading by example and at a certain point saying, you know what, I'm sure there are people in the choir who don't want to mention they have a disability, or they don't consider themselves as disabled, or having health issues is not a good enough reason. I think you should have a conversation with the whole choir without pointing anybody and saying, if you have access need, it's the time to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Do you need a chair? It's fine. Let's figure out a chair. It's now the time where we had choirs saying, okay, I need small people in the front and then taller people on the back, and then I need this, and I don't want a head that goes higher than the other, and I don't want anyone sitting, and I don't want anyone out of the row. This changed. Fortunately, it's now different. And then it's about, okay, let's think of the whole thing. Let's do a dress rehearsal with the whole thing. All the people who have access needs at the beginning can go rehearse like we would rehearse an entry on stage, an entrance on stage, and everybody who needs to get there earlier needs to know they have to get there earlier. The conductor needs to know, the musical director needs to know, the administration needs to know, the people who are helping in the back needs to know. So things like that. And that comes only with growing up the conversation, the communication with people.
It's such a necessary thing. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily, um, just don't necessarily pay attention to that. For
Mhm.
some people, it's actively that they're being jerks. For other people, it's really just a lack of knowledge or
Mhm.
not thinking about it.
Yep.
Um, I'm sure you know all about the curb cut effect, but for anybody who watches this who doesn't, the idea that having a curb cut means that you can use a stroller in that. You can also use a pull-on luggage. You can take your cello or your drum kit into a place if you have a curb cut that you might not be able to do if you didn't have one. It'd be much harder, so that a lot of those accessibility points help everybody. That's haptic uh, feeling on your cell phone,
Yep.
all of these things. But yeah, that figuring out how to have those conversations, that can be, that's, once you've opened that door, that's a much better time for everybody.
Yeah, and it's the same with the workshops I give. So the workshops are, I developed four different workshops. One is, and it depends, I adapt it to the age group, right? Age group of, the group of students I'm teaching. Um, I did an ASL music workshops for 4 or 5 years old, which was perfect. It was really, really nice. But I also did one for 11, 13 years old. And for this one, I didn't lead it myself. I brought an ASL performer who was awesome, who was very famous in the Toronto area, called Gayatri Prasad. And from this workshop, then at the end of the year, at the end of the school year, we did a performance. We had this workshop. We had a workshop called Playing Music Differently, where we had to imagine how to play an instrument that normally you play with two hands, with either no hands or one hand or another part of the body. And then we had another workshop with instruments that were only new technology based, and so things you don't have to touch. You could play a virtual instrument only with the eyes. And so I brought virtual instruments so that they could try that. And we had also a theremin. We had a few theremins, which is an instrument. I don't know, do you know what a theremin is? For those who don't know what it is, it's an instrument which uses the frequency of it. It's all physical something. There is no string or it's all plays with the physicality of the vibration of the sound. And you play it. There is one stick like that, metallic stick like that, and one metallic stick like that, and you play it with your hands like that. And you have to so there are very, very famous tunes that you can hear. It's used in horror movies. It's used in some very interesting settings, and it creates a sound like
Mm.
and you can play with the it's like stretching a sound, and you can play with the vibrato of it, and you can play with the strength of the the volume. You can play with a lot of different things, and this is perfect for the idea of for implementing the idea that you can play music without touching it, without touching an instrument. So we had a theremin, and we also had let's play drums with something else than a drum. So we had what is called a tenori-on, which is a very old instrument developed by Yamaha, and you push buttons, and all these buttons you can program the sounds of this little device. And kids love doing that. They just love pushing all the buttons, and it lights up, and then it creates this sound loop and things like that. And so we had a full Tenerion band, things like that. So it's really the idea that everybody could participate, whatever your level of your ability or disability or whatever. Um, Everybody could play these instruments in these workshops. And this all triggered a lot of conversation with the teachers, with the administration, of course, the students, which was the aim, right? But then still today, I have this conversation with teachers saying, okay, so what should we do another ASL performance? Which I love, right? I'm not the origin of that. Like people come to me and say, oh, by the way, you know what I did? We did O Canada with the students at this game with the sign language. Okay.
But it's also perfect in such a great way for them to learn because that kind of movement along with.
Yes. Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah, and it's there is a bit of a movement dance. There is a bit of a it's really it's a vernacular language, so it's not we don't translate word by word from English to ASL. We put the meaning into the music with these movements, and also because ASL has a part of facial expression, you can have a lot of fun with that. So I needed a really good professional to lead this workshop, and I had the best, so I was very happy.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, and I'm sure the kids had a wonderful time.
Oh yeah, the kids, the teachers, the even the admin, they came and they said, "Can I come?" Yes, sure, come.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is that something that you do frequently?
I have to plan it every year, right? So I did some, and I intend to do some others, but I didn't plan any for the upcoming year. I want to.
All right. Well,
Hmm?
when you
It will
do,
come.
absolutely, that would be wonderful. I, what a cool thing and a cool way for everybody to learn and learn
Yes.
together.
Yeah.
I'm,
And I learned too, right? I learned from
I
the
would expect.
experience, the contact. The children always have interesting questions, which sometimes is like, wow, okay, I didn't expect this one.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's
What were some of the more unexpected questions that came up?
well, for example, how do you play the double bass when you're in a wheelchair?
Okay.
I cannot. I leave it to the double bass players.
I I I don't.
Yeah, no. The cello, I could. I found a way to hold the cello with the help of a friend. Again, I didn't imagine it myself. And that's the whole also the thing, right? It's if you want to find a way, the best way, it's a team effort, right? It's not yourself in your little corner trying to do things. It's also asking, okay, so how did you do that? Or asking, do you know a musician who could help me with that? And that's collaboration all the time. And it's learning. You learn from others, right? You might be a teacher, but you're a constant learner all your life. So that's awesome. I like that.
It's so much better. And also, how much more fun because somebody's going to come up with ideas that you could possibly never have come up with on your own. So, what was the way, if you don't mind me asking, that worked best for two people?
Oh, for
Yeah.
what instrument? Because
No, it was the cello. Was it the one that you were
oh,
trying?
okay. So cello. So this comes actually the for the cello. I was inspired by someone I interviewed for my dissertation called George Dennehy. He's a guitar player in the States. He was born without arms, and he's a guitarist and a singer. And George did a TED talk a few years ago where he was playing the guitar with his feet. And I contacted him and I said, I need to know more about you, the way you grew up and what's your story. And he told me, well, the only first of all, the teacher when I he grew up in an environment where everybody was doing music because the music courses were delivered by the church and they were going frequently to this church. And so he came to this church with the idea of, okay, let's do some music. And there was a cello teacher, and the cello teacher said, let's try something. Um, and she went home and she said, if I can play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Stars with the cello with my feet, then I can teach George how to play with his feet. And she did it. And she then tried to teach George, but then they realized they had to learn together how to, what's the best way to put the cello on the ground, and what's the best way to hold your bow, and things like that. So someone from the church contacted them and said, I might be able to help. I'm an engineer, so let's figure out. And they built a stand for the cello, and then George was on a high stool, and they modified it's step by step, right? Let's try something, and this works and this doesn't work. So um, putting the cello directly on the floor doesn't work because then it suppresses some of the resonation level, so you need to sort of elevate it. Then someone built him a stand that he was able to use. Then it worked, but he had another issue with, like, how do I properly grip with my feet, with my foot, the bow. And so they like modified that too so that he could use that. And he sent me a picture with him and this like doing, he was maybe 13 on this picture, uh playing the cello with this stand, and he did that for some years, and he loved that. But one day he picked up the guitar, and one day he picked up the piano, and then with the same idea of, let's imagine a way to do it. And now he's a great guitar player, and he sings. And yeah, so it was a very, so I told the story, like, instead of saying, let me show you how, because of course I'm not the expert on that. I showed the story of George. Um, there is also, if we think of musicians who have been playing with only one hand, there are many, many pianists with guitar players who have been playing with the feet. There are also a few great rock players who did that. So it's finding some examples of these musicians today. And I also had a kid who could not believe it. Like, he said, no, it's all made up and someone transformed that. There was before AI, so um, it was not, oh, it's AI, but it was like, no, someone changed this, and I had to show him a video, and he was still a bit skeptical about, okay, so maybe it exists, maybe not, I don't know.
I mean, you don't have to believe it, of course.
Nope.
But really, people are pretty ingenious when it comes to really making what they want happen. I've just
Yeah,
found that
yeah.
again and again.
Mm.
It's like if you give people an opportunity and it's not, a crisis all the time, they'll find a way.
Yes, and with others. I mean, it's the same with Galen Lee. I was thinking of
Oh,
Galen
yes.
Lee with the way she holds her violin. She's a violin player and she's a singer. And the way she holds her violin, because she cannot stretch some of the members of her, like she cannot stretch fully her leg or her arms. So instead of playing like that, so I'm mimicking how I hold the violin for those who need visual description. She reversed it and she put it the way you put a cello, and it's larger than a violin, a little bit larger, and so she uses that violin with the motion she can, and she uses a loop pedal for some extra effects, and she's able to play and sing with that, and it's perfect. So I also interviewed her, and she told me that the first person who imagined that position was the teacher, her violin teacher. And then after that, if you play the violin, you know that there is a specific way of all her, she cannot, her, on one hand, the all the fingers work, but one cannot extend the way you had to if you had a full hand capacity for the violin. And so she had to reimagine the fingering. And she did that with the teacher. So she spent some time imagining what could we do to make it work? Like what could I do to play with the other members of the orchestra? And so she did that, and she worked with the Celtic band also, and she taught for years, right? She taught violin. So if you find a way, then you win, right? You just just you just apply it everywhere in your life.
Yeah, there are so many different options, honestly, that you can figure things out. And maybe you'll come up, maybe you don't have to invent a whole new idea, but maybe you will.
Yeah.
Often better with somebody else, is what I have found.
Yes. Yeah. There is another musician I'm thinking of. It's Evelyn Glennie, right? She's a percussionist and she's deaf, and she's one of the best percussionists in the world. She's a solo percussionist, right? She's not an orchestra percussionist. She's commissioned. She's in England, and she was one of the first musician with disability who really said, "Let's break the mold here, and let's break the assumption that deafness means silence, thus music cannot be applied to a deaf musician or something like that." Um, and she wrote, it's been years and years she's advocating for more accessibility. She was the first deaf performers to be admitted in the Royal Conservatory of London.
Mm.
She yeah, she always, oh, she was the first to say, I don't want to be an orchestra percussionist. I want to be a solo percussionist. And it was the first deaf musician saying, I want to be a solo, I want to be a solo musician. Yeah, so she was the first for many things. And I met her. I wrote a book chapter about musicians, women with disabilities, and powerful leaders in disability in music. And like she was one, Galen Lee was one, and Evelyn Glennie was one. And so when the book was released, I went to England and I brought her in person a copy of the book. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Evelyn Glennie?
Evelyn Glennie, yes.
Okay,
This I could put that in the chat
I am
actually.
putting that in the chat right now. I'm just
Okay.
making sure that I can find all the people as
Yes,
best as I can.
exactly. That's her. Evelyn
What
.co.uk. Yeah.
wonderful. All
And she's
right.
great for those who want to explore all these resources that you put in the chat. The Evelyn Glennie, she wrote a few essays, and also Galen Lee, she wrote a few essays about, the power of uh, advocacy and disability in the arts. So yeah.
It makes an enormous difference. Uh, yeah, I think for some people, it's like um, there's the assumption that you get places only on your own. I'm like, there is nobody, no matter where they are, who gets it totally and utterly on their own. unless that's just, in a very, very tiny box.
Yes,
In
for sure.
order for any of this to succeed, it is way more effective if you're working with a lot of people, and especially with disability, but really with anything.
Yes. Yeah.
You're just going to find more. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you're doing that is coming up that people should know about
Well, I
that you
just
have
finished something.
besides? Oh, what did you just finish?
I sing French chanson, and I wrote a part of my dissertation in Switzerland, and I have a very good friend in Switzerland with whom I have done a few great projects. He's in the area of Zurich, 1 hour from Zurich, in a medieval town called St. Gallen, and um, there is a an organ festival every year over there, and I've been lucky enough to do a lot of activities with them. I've been the musicologist in house, and international musicologist, doing all these interviews in multiple languages. I wrote books and well, with them, right? Not by myself. And one of the things we've done also is doing a series of concerts, and so all these are available on my YouTube channel if someone to listen to some of these. I've done just before leaving Switzerland in April. In March was Women's Month, and for Women's Month, we've been doing a concert, a French chanson concert, only women artists. And I came back and I did a few other things. And last weekend, yeah, it was last weekend, I was doing a residency, an artist residency in an area called Prince Edward County, which is Lake Ontario, beautiful beaches. There are some great forests. And every year I go to this residency place called the Milk House, and it's a glass house. So you are living in the middle of nature in a glass house. Fantastic house. It's very inspiring. I wrote a lot of things, but the deal is that you go to this residency every year, you give a concert at the end, and you have to find. So it's been my third year I'm going there every summer. The first year I did a jazz recital, a cappella. The second year, I did a French chanson from France concert. And this year, I did a French Canadian chanson because the last year I had conversations. It's salon concert, so there are maximum 20 people in the room. Um, and you can chat with everybody, which is great. You can have a little bit of, how did you, oh, did you know any of these songs? Oh, yeah, great memory about this, that. And um, one of the audience members told me, "Great, you do French chanson, but we are in Canada, so do you know any French Canadian artists?" And I said, "Yeah, a little bit, but I never really did a full program about that." So as a surprise, I arrived this year with my full program, and that's what I sung. And it's every time it's approximately 1 hour plus. We do a break in the middle, we chat a little bit, we eat. So it's between 1 hour and a half. So, and the recording contains the 1 hour only. But yeah, and there is a recording of that too. So everything is available on my YouTube channel if you want to, or on my website. I have a personal website where I post that. So my personal website is dianekolin.com. Not
DianeKolin.com and
not difficult.
okay,
And then Artsingly,
DianeKolin.com, and you'll find the YouTube
yeah.
from there.
Yes, and all the videos are posted in the performance section. So yeah,
Oh, well,
and all my
congratulations,
thank you.
and crossing fingers for your dissertation.
Thanks.
I'm sure you will do a beautiful job, even
Well,
if that's everybody I know going through dissertations. It's a pain. It doesn't seem to ever matter. Like, okay, could we just have it be done?
yeah, I hopefully I can defend in September, before the end of September. So let's see what happens.
Crossing fingers for you. I'd heard, I think it's Finland, where you get a sword when you
Oh,
when you actually get your doctorate. Someone's like, "Do you have to fight for it?" I don't know.
I know that Hungary you need to well, a very long time ago you had the sword, but I don't know about Finland.
We'll find out. All right. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It has been
Absolutely.
a pleasure. Shared.
All right. Cheers.